life was taken by her white father. This is Zarya Joselin Bergus, and she was born on December 23rd of 2003 in North Carolina. Zarya's parents were separated and she lived with her mother in Union County. Her father, Joshua Bergus, was very involved in her life and they were actually very close. He would always tell her that he loved her and he would not exchange her for anything in the world. On August 17th of 2019, Zarya went to her father's house to spend the weekend with him. The very next day, Joshua had walked into the Union County Sheriff's Office to turn himself in because he had killed someone and the body was still at his home. Officers went immediately to the scene and that's when they found the lifeless body of 15-year-old Zarya. An autopsy revealed that she had a strong wound on her neck which caused her death, but she was also strangled, tortured, and abused for 22 hours by her father. When Joshua was interrogated, he confessed that he ended his daughter's life over lust and wanted control over her. Officers ended up finding Joshua's Facebook page and it was speculated that he was a white supremacist and what he did to his daughter was part of a ritual. It was found that Joshua was liking multiple anti-black pages and he had even made a post saying, "I like to cut people off. Oops, I mean things. I like to cut things." Zarya's relatives believe that Joshua did this to her because he wanted to get revenge on her mom because they did not get along. In May of 2022, Joshua's trial began and he was sentenced to die by lethal injection.
Today I was asked, who has killed the most people in history? And what I found will leave you speechless. Now, most people probably assume that the answer is Adolf Hitler, the architect of the Holocaust. Others might guess the answer is the Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin, but both Stalin and Hitler were outdone by one man named Mao Zedong. From 1958 to 1962, his Great Leap Forward policy led to the deaths of up to 45 million people, easily making it the biggest episode of mass murder to have ever occurred. In pursuit of this utopian paradise, Mao Zedong herded villagers from all across China into giant people's communes so that everything was collectivized. People had their work, their home, their land, belongings, livelihoods, all of it taken away. In collective canteens, food distributed by spoonful, according to merit, became a weapon used to force people to follow the party's every dictate. Now, historians have speculated that tens of millions died from starvation alone. And it is not only the sheer number of people that were killed, but also the manner in which people died. Between 2 and 3 million victims were tortured to death or similarly killed, and often for the slightest infraction. There's one story of a boy who stole a handful of grain in a commune, and they forced his father to bury him alive. The father died of grief a few days later. Another time, a man had his ears chopped off, his legs tied with iron wire, a 10-kilogram stone repeatedly dropped on his back, and then he was branded with a sizzling tool. And all of this was punishment for digging up a potato.
Have you heard about the doctor that injected monkey private parts into humans? The pictures get bizarre. In the 1920s, a Russian doctor, Sergei Voronov, studied how transplanting male genitalia from younger to older sheep would hypothetically improve their strength, lifespan, and reverse aging. So of course, he wanted to apply this logic to humans. And he did his first experiments by taking the private parts of death row inmates and transplanting them into rich old people. This procedure became popular. Thousands of people had it done. And as it became more popular, Voronov needed more supplies. So he started breeding and using chimpanzees. By the 1940s, this experiment was proven not to be true at all and was essentially labeled as witchcraft. Comment your thoughts.
Things humans were never meant to see. Firstly, some beaches have had their oceans turn red, and this is what it looks like. Here is what's going on in the woods of Quebec. People believe the forest is actually alive. Different channels have different advertisements on the boards during sports games. My life is a lie. I didn't even think this was possible. This guy was driving and found the end of the rainbow. Okay, but did you know tigers also have stripes on their skin? Next, this is what fireworks look like during the day. This feels illegal to watch. Finally, here's what the inside of a ramen cup looks like. We've been scammed our whole lives.
animals as skinwalkers. Deer.
By the garden of the willow tree and
Dog.
with me.
A really strange story was the picture that came out of the Varana cruise liner. Large ship that went down at the Atlantic Ocean in 2014, and nobody really knew why at the time. There were very few survivors of this, and the news kind of like mulled over this for months. They were doing deep dives onto the ship to look for very like sinister evidence and relics. Of those who did survive, they all kind of shared this very strange story because they claimed they saw something kind of unexplainable in the water. For a while, it just kind of continued as that. It was just a story. These things kept going on. Like, people kept diving down there trying to collect relics, evidence, anything they could from the ship, and they found this. The phone of one of the passengers who died, and even though it was waterlogged for a long time, it was still semi-functional. On the phone, this was a photo that was apparently found. Leaked from an evidence bank in 2017, and it's hard to refute what this picture is. An unexplained shot of just someone standing in the water, eerily enough taken on the same day the ship sank.
These are some internet mysteries that will never be solved. So Cicada 3301, a set of 3 puzzles mysteriously released on 4chan in the early 2010s, has only been solved by a few individuals, with the final puzzle still remaining unsolved 10 years later. GhostNet was a large-scale cyber espionage operation in 2009 that infiltrated the computers of thousands of governments and organizations in over 100 countries, but 15 years later, and there's no idea who was behind this. The Bitcoin founder, operating under the alias Satoshi Nakamoto, mysteriously disappeared in 2012 after founding the cryptocurrency in 2009. With no traces to his $30 billion fortune. This song, dubbed the most mysterious song ever created, played on a Germany radio station in the 80s, but there's not a single clue where it originated from, like not a single person. Chip Chan is a Korean woman who has been live streaming herself every day for the last 20 years, claiming that the Korean government planted a mind control device in her foot. She has a YouTube channel too. And finally, the YouTube channel Unfavorable Semicircle has posted over 72,000 videos just featuring static and colors, which doesn't seem to lead to anything, but may have a hidden meaning.
This is a story that shows you how
Could these be zombie hands? Hello my friend, my name is Aslan and today we're looking at something called dead man's fingers, also known as Zarya polymorphia. Believe it or not, this is actually a fungus. As you probably guessed, it gets the name dead man's fingers from the fact that it looks like a zombie hand reaching out of the ground. Funny enough, it actually grows around the base of dying trees. This picture is probably the creepiest to me because it looks like the toes of a corpse. And that's our first episode of Spooky Season.
An orangutan's never been on record murking a person. Allegedly. But if looks could kill, they'd make Bundy blush. Somehow one of the most wholesome animals in nature got stuck with a paralysis demon for a face card. Not the first time. So the reason they go from this to that is because dominant males will develop these kind of fatty cheek pads or cheek flaps called phalanges. It's for real a BBL to the face that can take 15, sometimes 20 years to come in. You know the rules, if you see it in nature and it doesn't make sense, it probably has something to do with getting laid. Males with bigger phalanges are seen as more attractive, so while it does make it look like puberty hit them harder than Hiroshima, it does serve its purpose. It's not the only time we see this kind of thing. Male mandrills look like they got rear-ended by a snow cone machine because the most colorful ones are the ones that won the most fights and are a female's first choice. Black back female macaques are built like a Drake flower because their built-in seat cushion actually swells up when they're in heat to let every male in the area know when she's open for business. A lot of bab. Actually, I just heard myself. That was a Drake paying for BBL's joke. Don't take it the other way. I swear y'all not doing it to me. This ad getting canceled before I do. A lot of monkeys have their chest blisters swell up when they're ready to get down. Last chance to scroll in 3, 2, 1. Should have taken it. And the orange man ain't so bad now. BBL Drizzy.
Cannibal Facts that'll eat at you for days. Part 2. 71-year-old Tamara Samsonova murdered and ate at least 11 people and kept a diary detailing her crimes. She's been dubbed the Granny Ripper, and this CCTV footage shows her carrying the head of one of her victims in a saucepan. In 2008, a man on a packed Greyhound bus named Vince Lee killed and beheaded another 22-year-old passenger. He proceeded to dismember and eat his body in front of the other people on the bus. In 2008, Joe Matheny was sentenced to death after murdering 8 people, turning their meat into hamburgers, and selling them to unsuspecting customers. This photo shows the survivors of the 1972 Andes plane crash. The passengers resorted to cannibalism to survive 72 days in the snow. If you look closely at the ground, you'll see a human spine picked clean next to the guy on the right. In 1928, Albert Fish met up with his friend with the intention of killing and eating him. However, when he was introduced to the guy's 10-year-old sister Grace, he decided to eat her instead. After, he sent a letter to their parents saying that she tasted sweet and tender.
Creepy things caught in music videos. In 2011, iconic boy band One Direction released their biggest hit, which currently is standing at 1 billion views, What Makes You Beautiful. The lyrics, the rhythm, and the way the music video was shot was all perfectly executed for it to become one of the biggest love songs of that time. However, there is one scene in the music video that left a lot of people confused. For a brief second, while the boys are singing and dancing, behind them you can see what appears to be a child. Now, the logical answer could be that someone's kid just ran on set, hid throughout the video, and just so happened to pop out at that time. However, most sets tend to do sweeps to make sure they don't have to do any retakes, as it tends to be pretty expensive. But what do you guys think? Did a child sneak on set, or was it something else?
This child was born brainless. Jackson Buell was born in 2014 without a brain. Doctors had advised Jackson's parents to terminate the pregnancy, but the family never gave up on their baby. After birth, doctors said the baby wouldn't survive, but Jackson clung to life with the love of his family. However, Jackson's tiny body could only endure the lack of a brain for a maximum of 5 years. Unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 5.
Be careful what you put in your body. In 2014, a couple returned to their home to find it trashed in baffling ways. There was lotion all over the door handles, all of their shoes had had their soles ripped off of them, and someone had dumped an entire can of paint all over the toilet. Despite the obvious break-in, the police come and can't find any evidence of theft, so they leave thinking the couple's not in danger anymore. That night, the couple hears scratching underneath their bed and what sounds like a crying animal. Not wanting to find out what it was, they leave and call the cops, who come right back and start investigating the house, and they make a startling discovery in their bedroom. Wedged underneath the couple's bed was this 90-pound tiny little woman carrying a huge butcher's knife and a hypodermic needle. As they're taking this crazy lady away in handcuffs, one of the officers comes over to the couple and is like, so she was high on meth, and for at least 2 hours, she had been burrowing a hole in the underside of your mattress with that knife to get to you.
Weird Facts About the World, Part 1. It snows in the Sahara Desert. Coca-Cola does not exist in only 2 countries. Colombia's brightest rainbow is in a river. You're always 7 years behind Ethiopia.
Side of the river, so afraid of Theori.
Hello, my friend. That individual there is a rather frightening, but part of a very interesting belief system. A rather small community within the world of Hinduism known as the Aghori. They worship the god known as Shiva and believe that because Shiva created everything, everything is inherently perfect. There's no good or bad. And so they take part in a range of rituals designed to oppose the ideals of purity in other major sects of Hinduism. When one becomes an Aghori, they must find a skull from the Ganga river of a guru, which they will eat out of for the rest of their life. They do take part in cannibalism, however they only eat those that have already passed away. They also meditate while sitting on corpses, along with a range of other rather unique practices. And interestingly, they've actually been around for quite a long time.
Welcome to ridiculous things going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about, part 24. First, scientists recently identified 29 habitable planets where aliens could be observing Earth from. These habitable planets are close enough for them to intercept a clear signal of human existence. Signals like radio and TV broadcasts, which started about 100 years ago. I'm not saying that aliens are observing us, but scientists say it could be possible. Next, microscopic freshwater-dwelling organisms just came back to life after being frozen for 24,000 years. A recent study unearthed 24,000-year-old permafrost and found living organisms in it. Next, the last supermoon of 2021 is happening soon, so listen up if you want to see it. This specific supermoon is called the Strawberry Moon. The full moon will reach peak illumination on Thursday, June 24th, and will appear full for 3 days.
I had thought that I had seen everything when it came to cults, but you are not prepared for what this cult believes. So HBO just released this documentary about the Love Is One cult, which was run by this woman, Amy Carlson, who calls herself Mother God. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but she believed she was controlled by the spirit of Robin Williams, and this yassified version of Saint Germain. Also, I cover a lot of dark stuff on this page, so you should follow along. She also said she could channel and get advice from this galactic federation of dead celebrities. There's Mr. Rogers, Carrie Fisher, Steve Irwin, and randomly Donald Trump, who is not dead. But Robin Williams is at the top, and so the cult believes they're getting a lot of advice through Robin Williams, so they'll say things like, so one of the beliefs that this cult has is that one day Robin Williams is going to arrive in a spaceship to take Mother God away so that she can spiritually ascend. He also told her that she can only be 103 pounds to get on the spaceship, which is why she's trying to lose a lot of weight. Eventually, Mother God starts getting sicker and sicker, and also bluer and bluer because of the colloidal silver supplements they won't stop giving her, and everyone thinks, oh my god, Robin Williams must be coming on a spaceship really soon to help Mother ascend. Eventually, she passes away, and guess what? Shockingly, Robin Williams does not descend in an intergalactic spaceship to come collect the 103-pound body of Mother God. And so the cult members just have her body. They don't know what to do with it. They thought Robin Williams was gonna come. So they hang out with it for 12 days until the police finally show up. Anyways, this whole thing is a trip. You just gotta watch it to believe it.
4 things you didn't know about the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. A day after releasing on Netflix, the producers have received 20 credible tips towards solving the cases. 3 of these tips were passed on to the FBI. These 3 tips were about Alonzo Brooks, Ray Rivera, and Lena Chapin. Unsolved Mysteries is a reboot of the show Unsolved Mysteries from the 1990s. This show had 15 seasons with 580 episodes. Thousands of tips had been sent by users, and 280 of the cases were resolved because of them. The executive producer of the new Unsolved Mysteries is Sean Levy, who also directed and produced Stranger Things. Updates of the cases will either be posted on the website unsolved.com, the show's social media, or in the next season.
This man paid a homeless man $200 to essay his wife. In March of 2016, 48-year-old Russell Higgins had approached Hiliki Grain and asked him if he wanted to make some extra money. Russell claimed that his wife had a SA fantasy and he wanted to help make it a reality, so he offered him $200 and drove him to his house. That same day, a 911 call was made to police in Tehachapi, California, and the caller stated that she had just got S8 and her husband was watching the whole thing and he was actually the one that directed the attack. When police arrived to the home, they found the unidentified woman, 48-year-old Russell, and Hiliki. The woman had told police that she had just got home from work, and when she walked into her bedroom, that her husband and that man were hiding in her bedroom in the dark, and that's when they just attacked her. The men had tied her up, and Hiliki had ripped the clothes off of her body, and under direction from Russell, he continued to SA her. As Hiliki was SAing that woman, Russell had gave him suggestions on new positions and some tips. The woman was able to bite her husband's hand during the attack, but he threatened to kill her, her children, and grandchildren if she were to resist. After the SA, Russell had ordered his wife to go take a shower to remove any kind of DNA evidence, so she turned on the shower, washed her hair, and she did not wash her body. The woman handed over her husband's phone to the police and told them that it contained hundreds of thousands SA photos. The police conducted an SA kit on the woman and it revealed that her attacker was Hiliki Green. Police tracked down Hiliki in Bakersfield, California, and when he spoke to police, he stated that he didn't think that he was SAing the woman because Russell said that this was her fantasy. He stated that he smoked before Russell had approached him and he really wanted the $200 to buy more drugs and that him and Russell had smoked right after the SA. Both Russell and Hiliki were found guilty and Russell will be sentenced to 53 years to life in prison and Hiliki will be sentenced to 118 years to life in prison, and both will be eligible for parole in March of 2041.
This is a true horrifying story, part 32. In parts 25, 26, and 27, I warned you all about the most dangerous book that was ever written, Shams al-Ma'arif. This book is a portal to the world of jinns and demons. There's a person that read this book, and this person faces traumatic incidents every single day. She's a woman from Jordan. She graduated university being the top graded student. She is a genius. She has read hundreds of novels. She had a strong passion for books. She heard about this book called Shams al-Ma'arif. She couldn't live knowing that there's a book that has a strong story behind it without reading it. After many months of trying to find the real copy of this book, she heard about an old man that lives in Jordan that had an ancient copy of Shams al-Ma'arif. She got in touch with him and he refused to sell the book, but she didn't quit. It took her many weeks to finally buy the book off of him. She goes back home and immediately starts reading the book. After she read the first few chapters of the book, she felt kinda hungry, so she decided to go to the kitchen and prepare some food and then continue reading. As she goes into the kitchen, she opens the oven and a gale of fire burns her face. She spent 3 weeks in the burn unit rehabilitation. The oven was switched off. No one knows till this day where the flames came from. She had multiple plastic surgeries to recover her facial features, but till this day, her face is not what it used to be. After recovery, she goes home weeks later and she looks for the book, knowing that the jinn was the reason she was harmed. She tried to find the book for many days, but it was lost. Years go by. She was home watching TV one day. She came across an Islamic channel that had a live interview program. An old man was being interviewed on this channel. He was asked by the imams about the dangers of a black magic book that he owns. His body was very unusual and his face was burned off. He got a book from under the table and he said this: "I once sold this book to a young woman a long time ago, and the demons warned me not to stop my rituals, and if I gave the book away, they would burn my face and they would burn hers. And after I gave the book, I woke up the next day without my normal face. And the book I sold to that woman was right there laying next to me on bed. I knew that it was the jinns that brought the book back to me. And this is when I strengthened my iman and I quit black magic." Quote, this was all said on TV, and the poor girl was just standing there, watching the same man speak. The man on TV was the man that gave her the book. The book he showed on TV was the book he handed to her. That was the book that was lost. The book that she was looking for.